Hello and welcome to Perspectives. I've told this story before. I'm going to tell it again tonight because it's relevant to tonight's topic. It's about 10 years ago. I used to work with a group of friends, amongst whom I was the oldest and I was the only Pakistani. So within the organization, I was joked about as being the oldest in the group and being a Pakistani, in good humor. Once in San Francisco, I was meeting the CFO of the company and his wife and my wife, and they were going to take us out to dinner. So we arranged to meet at my hotel. They came to pick us up. They called, we came down. As I came down, my friend and his wife were sitting in the car. And I, because they were parked sort of orderly, I quickly tried to open the back door and get in the car. His wife immediately locked the car and refused to let me in. After about 20 seconds of confusion, she opened the door, we sat and we went away. During dinner, I asked her, why did she do that? She said, well, I was told you're the oldest in the company and you're a Pakistani. So I thought you'd be wearing those funny pants, you would have a beard, and you'd wear a turban. And it's been a joke amongst us for the past decade that that's how she saw us. And that was 10 years ago. If you look at the way the world is seeing us today, it's much worse. We are nothing like that. We're like this, really. And sure, maybe not the masses. Yes, there are a lot of people who have beards and a lot of people who have turbans. A lot of people wear suits. A lot of people wear funny pants. Not funny pants, they're called shalwar. But we are an educated, civilized, decent, very intelligent society. Given the space, we're probably the smartest, at least one of the smartest nations in the world. Genetically, we're just very intelligent. We may be misguided. We may misuse our intelligence, because that's really because of our economic, socioeconomic issues, our just general governance issues. But the potential to excel is in our DNA. And maybe that's really the biggest problem the world has with us. But that's not the discussion. The discussion is, how does the world see us in 2013? And how will the world see us a few weeks from today in the year 2014? Another thing I'd like to mention here is that a lot of topics that happen on Perspectives are really suggested by some of my friends and my guests. As you've seen before, Mr. Mir Mohammed had suggested a lot of shows on finance and economy, and he used to bring guests, and he used to come himself, and we had those discussions on finance and economy. Mr. Saad Manullah Khan Saab, who's the chief executive of Gillette in Pakistan, suggested a lot of NGO topics, and we had a lot of shows where he came with these people, and we had those discussions. Tonight's topic is also suggested by a friend and a person who was with great honor and pleasure, a regular on Perspectives. I'll introduce him a little later. On my right, with great pleasure, I'd like to welcome Mr. Toha Qureshi, who is visiting from the United Kingdom, who is the member of the British Empire, and also associated with an organization called the Forum for International Relations Development. So thank you very much for taking time out and being here tonight, and welcome to Pakistan, sir. Though you're a Pakistani, I don't really need to welcome you, but still welcome since you're visiting. On my left, again with great honor, Mr. Jamil Ahmed Khan, who has been with the Foreign Service and ambassador to various countries representing Pakistan. Also, thank you very much for taking time out. And the gentleman who has suggested tonight's topic and various other topics, and I insist that he tried to shy away from appearing on tonight's show, and I said every topic suggests you have to be here yourself. Fahim Zaman Saab, thank you, Fahim, for being here. Fahim, I think I'll let you open the forum and discussion, because this topic has been close to your heart and been hurting you. So why don't you introduce and tell us what we're going to talk about?
Thank you very much, Faisal. The reason I suggested this topic to you the other day was that the Attorney General of United Kingdom, Mr. Dominic Grieve, a few days back made a remark. He was actually talking to parliamentarians, and he sort of warned them that, look, the minority communities in UK, especially the Pakistani community, they grow in a in a culture where favors are taken for granted. There is corruption, there's severe corruption prevalent in the community in UK because they come from a society where corruption is taken for granted. There was a huge furor. Everybody, was accusing and abusing Dominic Grieve. He went on to media. He tendered his apologies, and he tried to explain his point of view. But he, courteously, he sort of withdrew his remarks as well. That you've been in the States, in all over several countries of the world. So have I. Toha Qureshi Sahib is here. The ambassador is here. Where did we go wrong? Why does people perceive like that? Forget about England. England is, say, 5,000 kilometers away. A stone throw away in UAE, in Gulf countries. You go to, countries next door. Go to India, go to Iran. You find basic attitudes of people pretty different, and towards Pakistan or Pakistanis, there is a sort of, not necessarily because we are Muslims, but because we are Pakistani. That is where
was the apology heartfelt, or was the apology political?
I think it was more like, I made a mistake. This is not a statement I should be issuing.
So it was a political apology,
yeah,
and not necessarily a heartfelt apology. Okay, another thing I'd like to mention before we open it for our guests is there are two comedies on British television. One is Citizens at number 42, Kumar's at number 42, and the other is Citizen Khan. Now, Kumar's number 42 shows a very strange Indians, but Citizen Khan, even the title of that show, he parks his beaten down Mercedes on the sidewalk. So maybe there is a media projection which shows us as corrupt, ill-mannered, poor, whereas the Kumars at 42 really had antics about their culture, about their customs, not necessarily about their conduct.
You see, I try to sort of reason with myself. Is it about projections? Is it
really
about prejudice, or do we have
okay?
a problem somewhere?
The only reason I invoke that is that I'm not saying we don't have the problem. We have a problem. You and I fully agree we have a problem. But we're not the only ones. But we get the worst projection. There are other countries probably as bad or worse. In particular, India. But they have better branding. We probably failed. Sir, open to you.
Well, the last point which you just mentioned, better branding, that definitely lacks, and that's what I have experienced also. Basically, our public diplomacy is slightly weak, and that unless we realize and unless we accept that, we would not be able to improve upon that. An example which is being given here, for example, the Attorney General of UK, once he made a statement, what public diplomacy structure was existing there, or what way did we invoke our existing mechanism to address that problem right then and there. It's nice because there are relations of two countries, and Attorney General, he more or less in this case was basing his remarks, which was out of the cuff, and also which I would say that Attorney General was basing on the basis of conviction, which the counselor was given around in 2007 or 2006. So basically it was based on a technical point, but the way he presented, he generalized the entire community. And there comes the way we are doing our public diplomacy. And public diplomacy, there is a whole lot of structure which is needed for it. In fact, we at this point in time have our press counselors in most of the major countries of the world. And unfortunately, our press wing is not that vibrant and not that vital as it should be. For example, I can give the example of the countries where I have been, such as UAE. We spend more than $500,000 on our press wing. And I had reduced it in writing as well. But our press wing does not have any mechanism of translation, although in the consulate and in the embassy we have a translator.
Sure.
Our press counselor, our press wing would not have any photographer, and we feel shy of asking one of the employees who are drawing hefty salary and facilities and perks to just pick up a camera. Just to give you an example, I was meeting one of the rulers of UAE, and at one time I had a press wing with me, and I said, well, they have their own photographer. Can we have a picture? They said, no, we don't have any photographer. I said, well, I have a camera. Can I give it to you? We've never taken a picture, like this. So it's the job of a photographer. So that's how. And then once I finished with my meeting, I said, this should go to the people of UAE and the international community right now, if possible. They said, well, we'll go to the office and we'll write it down, and from there we'll release it to APP and PPI and so on and so forth. I said, how about the local media? What I did was then to ask her to my press wing, the consular, that, well, you just dictate it from here to your office or anyone. 2030, or I have my laptop. Let's just read the news. And
sure.
So that's where we stand in most of the cases. In fact, what I then did was that normal translator, which is meant for the embassy or the consulate, I assigned them additional
So what you're saying is the official branding is lacking.
The official branding is lacking, and we are so far behind in engaging with the local community and the international community where we are. The maximum thing which our press wing does it to send the news to Pakistan in most of the channels here and the newspaper. In fact, we are meant to improve the image of our country. Engage it.
Sir, how would you comment on this?
There are a number of, as a matter of fact, segments which we could discuss here. One, this guy is the senior most legal officer of the United Kingdom.
Sure.
I was not really expecting this kind of statement of him. Nonetheless, he's made that mistake and he's apologized. We must give him credit for that. Another thing is he is a pro-Pakistani MP. He is not that kind of person who is always going after the Pakistanis if they find something and they just want to make a big issue of that. The third aspect is, I would say, look who is talking here. There is an old English saying, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. So this comes from the very country whose Attorney General is saying that Pakistani culture is full of favors and this and that. Here, I would bring your attention to, or the audience attention to, how many members of the House of Lords have been charged for corruption recently on the expenses issue. You must have known about it. Mm-hmm. How many MPs have been charged and convicted and they have been imprisoned? The senior most Metropolitan Police officer, the senior most police officer of the country, he had to resign because of corruption. The deputy high commissioner, the deputy commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, again the second senior most person, he took favor from someone from, as a matter of fact, Rupert Murdoch's media group, to appoint his daughter there. And our current Prime Minister, Dominic Grieve, is his Attorney General himself. He appointed a boyfriend of Rupert Murdoch's chief executive of one of his newspapers. So I just don't understand if Pakistanis are having some kind of culture which does favor. I think that is human nature. Where there is law broken, I think that is where the problem rises. I cannot see any problem in doing some of a favor as long as law is kept intact. What our Prime Minister did, giving Andy Coulson a job of head of communication, very, very sensitive role of a person who was the chief executive of one of the newspapers, to just keep that party's image better in the public eye. And I think it is very unwise of the Attorney General to make such remarks.
I would like to move on from his comment because, like you said, he's apologized and moved on. The corruptions that you mentioned are actual corruptions.
Yes.
Of corruptions of office, corruption of power. if we start comparing their corruption of power with our corruption of power, the balance would be completely off. I think what Fahim was indicating was the general conduct of an average citizen, the general conduct of the society, where I think the balance is pretty much out of favor for us.
The comment he made, and I was trying to look at the Daily Telegraph, he actually said that the people amongst the Pakistani community do not believe that without knowing somebody, a job can be done. You know, you need to know somebody, you need to curry favor from somebody, even something which is really straight. Now, that where you coming from, okay, it may be different, but there is a problem
But friend,
within
there is
Pakistan.
a reflection of our mindset
That's
because
something
there are no systems.
Yeah, but that is what I'm saying. In Pakistan, if even if I'm going to passport office to get a
Try to
passport
make a
done,
phone call.
I will look for somebody, okay, because otherwise I know those other somebodies who know somebody there, okay, they will bypass me, jump the line, okay. So this is something which is ingrained in my own psyche, okay. So when Dominic Grieve says that, maybe he made a politically incorrect statement. Maybe it is true for other minorities living in.
But it is
you know,
food for thought.
But for
I
us,
don't think it was just politically incorrect. I think that was incorrect statement. There are a very tiny minority of people in every society who get favors from one another.
Mr. Fisher, I agree. A tiny minority in society everywhere, even in a country like Japan and Singapore. I mean, I've got pictures of Singaporeans standing and smoking in front of a non-smoking sign, which is unheard of, but that happens. The most disciplined society, Japan, lawbreakers, that's fine. But I think what Fahim is saying and what that gentleman said is that at large, en masse, the society of not just Pakistan, kind of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, a lot of these countries, we are habitual, unfortunate.
In Pakistan and Bangladesh, yes, we understand that. But in the UK, you get whatever you have to, whatever you deserve. Whatever you deserve.
true for you. That may be true for you, but how about thousands of Pakistanis who are either going there to work or migrating now, who actually, their feet are embedded here in this ground, in this society. And when they behave, okay, maybe at Metropolitan Police, people do see that marked difference, which you probably, they'll not see you conduct yourself.
With no
that way.
offense meant to anyone. I mean, I remember the Queens in New York of the 80s where there were Pakistani areas. I know, I'm not going to take any name. I took the name Queens because Queens is cleaned up since then. There is a city in Canada and there is a city in the UK which is known for Pakistani fraud and at large. And there are communities from Pakistan, from India, from Bangladesh who thrive on social fraud. And they do give us massively bad name. Now, all said and done, my question, sir, from you is, where are we lacking and how are we going to change it? What's happened has happened, we are who we are. But we need to change that, not just the perception, but also the fact.
Well, basically, one has to really bear in mind the segment of a society. Now, overseas Pakistanis, they originate from Pakistan and they have a nationality of those respective countries.
Sure.
Fine enough. But the reflection of society, sometimes it emanates from the segment which goes out or which stays
Very
here
much.
in various departments.
That's representative.
Whether it's a police or whether it's the civil departments or whatever. Now, over a period of time, our overseas Pakistanis, they adopt that culture, and not only adopt, they definitely adopt those rules, regulations, laws, and they follow that. Sure. Now, the problem is that in this particular case, if one person, one councillor had done some fraud in ballot voting, and that was the basis of an attorney general, the top law officer, of making a comment, which he withdrew subsequently, which is good enough. My point is, the moment he made a statement, what was the mechanism with our overseas Pakistanis?
Where was our recourse?
Or, most importantly, our public diplomacy, which is a fundamental responsibility of the government to steer it
Fair
through.
point. So where's the recourse from our state, our representation, and also our society?
Well, I mean, just you need to look at the House of Lords. How many members of the House of Lords are there from Pakistani heritage? In the Parliament, Sadiq Khan, for example, he is the shadow Justice Secretary, the senior most figure in Labour Party. So he hasn't reached there by acquiring a favor from Labour Party or Pakistan. He earned that position. So I'm not willing to accept that what Attorney General said, that is a very general thing among the Pakistani community. Of course, you will find odd people here and there. 30 billion pounds is contributed towards the GDP of UK by the Pakistani community. So it isn't just the Pakistani community is just committing fraud. I mean, of course, they are part of the British society. When the elders went to the UK, were they involved in terrorism or extremism or radicalization? They were not. They were very peaceful citizens. They worked hard, they earned money, and they brought stability to their communities and their families and the
they're
country.
huge taxpayers in their own communities.
Of course. And now, if someone gets up, brought up in the UK, in the government funded schools or in privately funded schools, that's the Islamic madrasas and Islamic schools, if they go and commit terrorism and extremism, Muslims get blamed. It is actually somehow the system has given them that leeway to get onto that path, and I think we ought to be very careful. Pakistan bashing has become a fashion. Wherever I go,
well said.
It's become a fashion now. Our media, our journalists, our politicians, our chief ministers, they go from here and they start criticizing in public on the TV, Pakistani nation is a Pakistan.
When you say our, you mean from Pakistan?
Our own chief ministers from here. So I think we ought to be very careful. We have to be very, very responsible in portraying the good image of Pakistan. We come here to support Pakistan, but what we hear is the bashing of Pakistan by the Pakistanis.
That means, Faisal, there's something lacking in our strategy, and this is what I was trying to come on that point, that we do not have a system whereby once these VIPs they go abroad, they are given a full briefing as to what are the talking points and what are the issues which they need to address, because these points are very discouraging for the top officials going abroad and spelling it out that way. But at the same time, it becomes our responsibility, whether it's a labor force, export from Pakistan, or any kind and category going from Pakistan abroad, they should have a mechanism, a leaflet, or one-day orientation, or some mechanism, as it is there in Philippines, in Thailand. I'm giving the example of our own country of our nature, Vietnam. All those countries, they give a full briefing whenever their people they go abroad. What to talk of VIPs, even the labor force, they know do's and don'ts, and they know the cultural sensitivity, and accordingly their image is being built. Now, in our case, we have a huge department of protectorate, but somehow I've been writing also from time to time to the respective departments from UAE or from other countries, but somehow those concerned departments are not really performing their duties to improve the.
I need to take a short break. Jameen Saf said that from countries like Vietnam, even Sri Lanka, Philippines, there is briefing about how to behave and how to conduct yourself when you travel when you're there on work visas and work permits. Unfortunately, I think even the highest representatives are not briefed when they go from here. Even they need some briefing. But let's talk more about that. And what I'd like to talk about, what Mr. Qureshi said, that we do not stand tall for ourselves. We are ready to cut ourselves down to size. That needs to be talked about. Let's take a short break. We'll continue with that. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Perspectives. Fahim, I'd like to restart the discussion with two aspects. One is the retort. We do not stand tall for ourselves. When somebody makes an accusation like that, where's the official response, like Khan Sahib was saying? And secondly, the biggest image that the world has of us, I was supposed to have the beard and the turban, is that of, like we were just saying, radicalization. When I say radicalization, I don't necessarily mean Islamic radicalization, general radicalization of the society of thought. We are extremists, not in the Islamic or the religious way, but just extremists in our thought and opinions. We're either absolutely there, and we're very aggressive. And that also projects and reflects a certain kind of perception about us. How are we going to address that?
You see, I mean, the way I look at it, I don't know about you guys, but I think other societies that we are talking about, maybe Vietnam, maybe, there is a constant development. The masses are getting educated. They're more literate with every passage of time. Look at Thailand, Bangkok. Used to be, in early 80s, used to be a complete mass. Malaysia, I mean, you know, the Malaysia I remember, today you see civilized behavior, attitude. A lot has to do with education, investment in our own people.
Absolutely.
Somehow, our ruling elite, our ruling classes have failed to make any investment in our people. Instead, they become so, I mean, people